Welcome back, everyone, for this Health and Happiness podcast. I'm Dr. Farzanna Haffizulla. Today, I am so excited. In the studio with me today, I have one of my incredible colleagues, Dr. Jacqueline Junco. She is chair of the Department of Integrative Medicine here at Nova Southeastern University's Institute for Neuro-Immune Medicine. Dr. Junco, such a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, and it's a blessing and a privilege to be here.
Well,
Thank you.
Excited to have your expertise here. You've done so much in your career, and now you're chairing our Department of Integrative Medicine. So can you share a little synopsis for our audience about what integrative medicine is?
Okay, wonderful. So the best way to describe it is integrative medicine integrates different modalities into treating patients. So what does that mean? That means whether it's incorporating nutrition, incorporating Chinese medicine, which is another thing that I incorporating sound healing, and other modalities which could make an impact in the patient's well-being.
I love that. And you know what struck me when you spoke to our internal medicine department is you really personalize your approach depending on what your patient needs. And that is the best kind of medicine, having that partnership and determining what's the best path forward and seeing, what would be embraced by a patient and what's accessible, what's affordable. So can you share a little bit more about how you take that personalized approach?
And I totally agree, because every patient is different, and every patient is going to present with a different situation. So one of the things that I do in the beginning is, before addressing what their chief complaint is, I try to see, where they live, what their family surroundings are, what kind of water they drink. I mean, it's more like a very detailed history. So it's very individualized. They call it now personalized medicine. And that way you get a greater scope of the person you're working with. And you build a relationship with a person. It's not just, patient, you say, oh, come in with hypertension, here's a pill, you're going to feel better. No, it's trying to establish a relationship to see why they have hypertension. Is it the stress they're going through? Is it something that they're eating? Is it some environmental toxins that they're being exposed to? So there's so many modalities and so many things that we could help them with that need to be, it's like a detective work, I call it.
It is.
Yeah.
It surely is. And I love that you take that deeper dive. So the first visit is probably one of your longest visits then.
That's correct.
You look at all, that 360 look, really.
Yes.
Right? And then do you have specific questionnaires that people can fill out ahead of time? What do you recommend as far as people learning more about what information they should come with to be able to answer these questions during that visit?
Well, we usually send them a big packet, and I say big, it is big. It's like maybe 20, 30 pages. And from there, they're going to input different, like what kind of house they live in, how long they've lived there, if they have any leaks, if they've been exposed to any mold in the past, what kind of water they drink. It's a very big environmental, but then as far as their health history, their family history, their social history, lifestyle factors. So it's a very detailed pack that we send out to them, and then we'll have it, we usually read it before they come in because it's pretty intense. And then we just start from the ground up.
I love that. So you give patients a chance to take their time to be able to thoughtfully answer these questions before they even arrive in the clinic space. And that's important. If you have that, those questionnaires handed to you right then and there, you're never going to remember all the details.
Oh, no, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I love that approach. So this seems like a much more expanded social determinants of health sort of approach,
right,
which really lines up with health equity, which is music to my ears. That you do this.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then you talked about understanding the environment the patient lives in. We're living in a very overstimulated world. We have so much around us, technology, we have screen time, we've got this and that and the next. How do you then use the information that you obtain to determine a sustainable set of habits that may help our patients to stay well or even prevent disease?
Well, one of the things that I like to look at are like the pillars of health. So we start with sleep, because sleep is something that's very underestimated in regular practice. And I go into detail because it's not just, do you have trouble falling asleep? Do you wake up during the night? If you do, are you able to go back to sleep? How's your environment in your bedroom? Is it dark? Is it light? Is it cold enough? because there's so many factors that are involved in good sleep hygiene. So for me, one of the pillars that I address is sleep. And then all the other ones. Nutrition is very key. See what you're eating. Because we feed our bodies. It's not just food. It's fuel. And it's fuel that's going to maintain our DNA, our mitochondria. It's going to maintain everything, our brain health. So depending what you're eating, we have to either modify, adjust, eliminate, depends. Movement, exercise is the other pillar. Movement is important. If we're not moving, our bodies are made to move. And one of the things I say to patients, the body in motion stays in motion. If you don't move, you're going to get stuck. And then we live this lifestyle that now we're more on the computer, more sedentary, and it's so sad that in this country, we're so sedentary. We don't move as much as like in European countries. So you think, why is cardiovascular disease so high? Why is the lifespan decreasing in this country versus in the other countries? So is it because of movement? All these factors are together. And then there's so many things that we address in one visit. Again, sleep, movement, nutrition, stress. I consider stress the root of everything. Because that cortisol drives inflammation, whether it's in the brain, in the gut, in the organs, anywhere. And there's so many things we can do to prevent and modify these things.
That's right. And just building resilience in times of stress. We are in this very fast-paced world. So much is changing around us. There are different, stressors that we face just from even just looking at the news and seeing the rapid changes that are happening around us. So what are your top tips, to help to navigate some of these rapid changes and to build more resilience, have more joy, and maybe better healing?
Well, one thing that I forgot to mention is very important is that you mentioned technology. You see the kids now and the young adults are always on their phone. I mean, we get also hooked on that. The social media, it's constant. You see, you go out to dinner and you observe around you and you see families, everybody's on their phone. So you lose that connection, which is another pillar. It's the community, the connection, socialization. So technology has made a big impact on health in all ages. So I think that is one thing that we cannot, unfortunately, get away from because that's the times we're living. But how can you modify that? I always recommend, especially in the evenings, try to limit your exposure to your phone, your computer, your TV, because it's not just being on social media. It's also, the EMF radiation. That's right. So, you want to sleep with if you don't have kids and you're waiting for the phone to ring, you just put it on airplane mode. So you diminish that aspect right there. So there's a lot we can do. It's just that, are we ready to do that? Because I myself catch myself sometimes like, oh my gosh, I'm on the phone and I'm like, okay, I need to stop.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to disconnect, reconnect.
I love that.
To reconnect to our own self because it's hard.
Really slow down and enjoy the beauty around us, right?
Totally.
Take in nature. Take in the small joys that are really going to amplify our happiness in the end, right?
Because it's tough. We're living in difficult times. And like you mentioned earlier, we watch the news. That's another thing. I don't watch the news. I listen to the news when people say, oh, did you hear that? I said, no, I did. But it's like, I don't put on the news because why am I going to get stressed? There's enough stress going on.
Yeah.
We have stress that we deal with every day.
You're so
good
right.
stress and bad stress. So,
Exactly.
Why add on more?
Right. And simple things like, what? I love your smile. Just seeing your smile in the crowd of all of the faculty meetings brings brightness, right? So just simple things like that, right? That, like you mentioned, the human-to-human connection.
Absolutely.
And honoring that. Yeah. To me, that's just a beautiful, very simple way to remind us of that connection and the importance of it.
Right, because I think we're losing that. And it's very sad because you see the generations that are the younger generation, what's going to happen, when you lose that touch.
I know in previous talks you talked about, going outside barefoot.
Oh, yes.
Getting the sunshine. Grounding, right? Tell us more about that. And we're very blessed to live here in Florida.
Yes, we are.
Despite the rain right now.
Yes, right now we're But you got to embrace that too.
That's good too.
Yes,
exactly. We need
for
it,
sure.
right?
So another one of my recommendations with the sleep is, is waking up, first thing you do in the morning is look at the sun. If you get that morning at least 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you can, if it doesn't hurt your eyes, but it's not bad for you. You want to reset that circadian rhythm, get your melatonin where it needs to be so you're able to fall asleep. Then if you could do that barefoot, if you have grass or just being on pavement, just being on the outside, it's the grounding. We need the electrical frequencies that are coming from the earth. That frequency is going to resonate within our bodies, and it's going to create balance. I've had patients that I've recommended go outside every day for 10 minutes barefoot and just hum or do something to stimulate your vagus nerve. Just stand there and hum. It's amazing what they feel after like a month or 6 weeks. I mean, you're not going to feel right away, even though some people say, hey, I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel less anxiety. I feel less depressed.
I love that.
And it's amazing. There's in Japan, they recommend forest bathing. So why?
Expand
Why
on
can't
forest bathing for us, please. That would be amazing.
Right? It's like, hey, here's a prescription
Yeah.
to go out to the forest.
I
Go to
love
the
it.
national parks. Hug a tree.
Wow.
Because it's improving. I mean, they're living creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to get the same energy that we get from food, because, we do get every food we put in our body, everything we put into our body, on our body has a frequency.
Yes.
Same thing with the forest, with the grass, with the rocks, touch.
That's right.
So it's so important.
And sharing that vibrational energy with those sentient beings,
Yes.
around us. So important.
Yeah.
So my husband is the one who gardens. He loves to plant. But recently we got like a trellis and planted some trees in there, some, floral plants and some herbs, and put some bird feeders up there. So now at least 3-4 times a week, we've got to go out there and refill all the bird feeders. And we're seeing beautiful cardinals and blue jays and just doves, gorgeous, birds coming by. But it gives us a consistent habit of making sure we go outside and enjoy, those beautiful parts of nature around us,
Yeah, because we don't have time, and we don't make time to be able to do that. And it's important to take time, and that's when you're more mindful. And then, you take a gratitude moment and say, wow, I'm able to sit here and look at these beautiful birds.
Yes.
Or look at these beautiful flowers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. It's a good reminder to slow down, reconnect with the beauty around us,
Yes.
recognize the vibrational energy of all the living beings around us, and that can heal us as well. But you also mentioned nutrition and eating well. A lot of times we don't recognize that a lot of the healing qualities of the foods that we eat, it's either underestimated or in a highly processed form, you don't get those same benefits, right? So your recommendations from an integrative medicine standpoint, what are some very sustainable ways that people could include, this is part of the In the Kitchen with Dr. H series as well.
Right, I was
so we
gonna
eat
say,
a lot
you're
of
the
colorful
expert,
fruits
but-
and vegetables, right? Yes,
Yes.
right? So it's more whole foods, whole fruits and vegetables, unprocessed foods, Is there a habit that you have, or do you have a patient story that you can share where a lot of these pillars came together in such a beautiful way that helped to either prevent disease or, at least control it and allow it to more quality of life for that patient?
Well, nutrition for me is key because, again, it's one of the foundations. It's very important because, as you know, everything we eat has an effect on our body. So when I see patients, I tell them, okay, let's see, what are you going to have for breakfast tomorrow that's going to make an impact? Is that going to make you better, or is it going to make you worse? And color, the rainbow. You need to eat as much color in your plate as you can. Mm-hmm. And I know that patients, I can't afford organic. I know it's difficult because, things are expensive. But at least trying to stay away from processed foods is key. Mm-hmm. Another recommendation that I make is when you go to the grocery store, stay in the periphery. Don't go in the center aisles. You don't need anything from the center aisles except rice.
Yeah.
Things like, basic things if you want to, if you eat grains and beans and things like that. But everything in the periphery is safe.
Yeah.
But everything that's processed, canned, in a box, you got to look at the labels. Thank God now with technology again, we have all these apps that'll tell you, is this good for me, if it's bad. But, bottom line is you just need to do what's right for you, and depends what's going on. I'll give you an example. I had patients with high blood pressure. I put them usually in Chinese medicine. One of the beautiful things we learn, that color is therapy. So each organ in Chinese medicine has a response in that certain organ. So, like for the heart, I had a patient just eat red foods. Okay, that's Not just red meat, because red meat could be a little inflammatory.
Yeah.
But beets, anything
Tomatoes.
red, tomatoes,
Yeah.
anything, yeah. I mean, all those antioxidants,
Fantastic.
but because, and you think about beets, people drink beet juice and they have beet supplements now. But I had a couple patients that their blood pressure did dramatically better. Even hibiscus tea, which is another diuretic, good for
love
blood
that.
pressure. And the
Yeah.
studies are documented. 3 to 4 cups a day will lower the blood pressure. But you have to have that amount. So I've had a couple patients for sure that they've been able to decrease the amount of medications they've been on for high blood pressure just with nutrition.
I love that. So it's important to have the continuous follow-up or the continuity, right?
Yes.
To see how well those numbers are changing based on your
Right.
changes in the lifestyle as well, too, rather than abruptly stopping any treatments, right?
Right.
So it's a gradual process, but it takes time, and you
It
develop
does.
habits.
And everybody's different.
Yeah.
You know, myself, for instance, I cannot do keto.
Yeah.
And when I did some genetic testing, I showed that I do not metabolize fats very well. So a high-fat diet, for my case, isn't beneficial. So again, it's an individualized treatment plan.
Exactly.
You know, what is right for you might not be right for me. So, you know, it's just sort of finding the right tools and addressing them accordingly, depending, everybody's different.
And slow down enough so that you can enjoy the food in front
yeah.
of you.
'Cause-
See how it makes you feel.
Yes.
And then share that information, you know, during
That's
either the
true.
visit or before to see, hey, you know what, I felt amazing with this. Or, you know what, this gave me a little bit more bloating, you know?
Yes. Well, food
Yeah.
diaries are very important.
Yes.
If patients do have trouble, you know, they get bloated, they get either constipated, symptoms of IBS, anything like that, I always say, you know, let's do a food diary for at least a week and then bring it in and we'll go over it. See, what is it? What are the triggers that we could find?
Fantastic. So this is yet another pearl of wisdom, you know, keeping that food diary
Right.
and seeing the things that make you feel good or how it makes you feel during that
Yes.
time. Because many times it's really hard to remember all of those pieces.
It is.
You know,
It is.
and then you get to see a pattern.
Yeah.
You know, we have patients on continuous glucose monitors, you know, who are diabetic, and many times you'll see which foods raise that blood sugar very quickly,
Yeah.
or which foods they eat first and then eat the one that maybe used to cause the blood sugars to rise faster, but because they shifted the order of the foods, you know, you no longer have that higher blood sugar spike.
True.
So do you work you work with a whole team of folks, of course, right?
Right.
And I know that there's a larger interprofessional team, you know, involved in integrative care. So if there is another, you know, pearl of wisdom from that piece, what do you recommend as far as maintaining that interprofessional team and ensuring that your patients get the best care?
Well, we do have a great team.
Yeah.
We have the environmental medicine, functional medicine. We do have a functional nutritionist on board. And then I see myself as the out-of-the-box doc,
Yeah.
okay? Because I focus more, again, on sound, on frequency, a lot of quantum, a lot of acupuncture. Acupuncture is
Wonderful.
amazing. I mean, acupuncture has been around for thousands of years, and I've had patients do so remarkable just with acupuncture alone.
Incredible. So tell us a little bit more about those modalities. I know in my allopathic training, you know, they really didn't talk much about that. I've learned a lot more about it being here in our College of Osteopathic Medicine. So share a little bit more about those modalities and how they work and how they can there's a complementary approach to Western medicine.
Sure. Well, let me start with my favorite, which is Chinese
Yes.
medicine. I got into Chinese medicine 30 years ago. I took an acupuncture course for physicians. And during that time, I was going through a lot of anxiety and taking medications. I took the acupuncture course, which was 300 hours for docs.
Yeah.
And I started getting acupuncture, and I was able to get off meds.
Wow. Incredible.
And for me, that's when I had my epiphany. I said, okay, I'm going to do something different. So that's when I enrolled in my preventive medicine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fast forward to
Yes.
everything. And Chinese medicine has been around for thousands of years. And unfortunately, we don't embrace it as physicians like we should, because it is so amazing. There was an article now in the New York Times that came out that spoke about the interstitium. I don't know if you saw it, but it even mentioned acupuncture there because it's one of the modalities that works. I mean, when you put in a needle, you're signaling to the brain that something's happening in that area. It's a micro trauma.
Yes.
But what it does to the fascia, it's amazing. So if you're using it for pain, that's one thing. If you're using it for activation of the parasympathetic nervous system in the vagus, it's amazing. I mean, that's what it does, 100%. So I use acupuncture on everybody.
Yeah.
Because as long as they're willing to get needles.
Exactly.
Because I would say maybe 5%,
Yes.
I don't like needles.
Right.
I'm like, okay, and we'll do something else.
But
We could do acupressure.
Barely feel it, right?
Yeah, some are a little painful.
Okay.
The ears are a little painful, but I love the ear. The ear is a microsystem of the whole human body. You could treat the whole body just with the ear. When I was at the VA, I did a study for PTSD just using the ear. And they were able to reduce their sleep meds. Some of them were reduced some of their dosage of their antipsychotics. So it was a remarkable study just using the ear.
Yeah. So is this, you said acupressure as well?
Acupressure or acupuncture.
Right. So either or on
Right,
the ear, depending
on
on the area of the body that you'd like to impact.
And it's interesting because it's an upside down fetus.
Yes.
So if you have a headache,
Yeah.
well, besides this point right here, which is large intestine 4, pressing this point is another acupressure point. But the ear, if you massage the ear has branches of the vagus nerve. You just massage the ear if you're too stressed, you relax,
Yeah.
and you're good.
Well, I want to ask, those very big headsets that we see sometimes our children or others in the community wearing, how does that impact your health and wellness if you have that constant pressure on those ears, knowing the impact in the body? Is there
I've never
an
looked
effect?
into that, but there might be.
Yeah.
Depends how much pressure, because those things, some could be pretty tight.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I don't know if your ear is pressed or is it like inside like a little...
It depends on that foam, that's
It's like the people who wear the earbuds.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are inside right here. And right there is where we have the lung and large intestine meridians in Chinese medicine. So
Sounds
who
like
knows?
it's
I
a
wonder-
study.
It would be. That would be interesting,
You can,
right?
look at that in more detail and see exactly, what's happening there. Hey, stay tuned, everyone.
Yeah, for next
more
next
information
one.
on
Yes.
that soon. This topic is too important to fit into just one conversation. Join me in part 2 as we continue exploring evidence-based strategies and real-world solutions that can help you take charge of your health and happiness. If you're viewing this QR code on your phone, an easy way to access the link is to take a screenshot of it and then long press the QR code from the screenshot picture. Your phone should recognize it and take you straight to the video.